Okay, so we have recently seen the summer. Well, technically not according to the calendar, but we're seeing it come to a close. And so I thought it would be good to look back on some of the defining moments from my childhood summers. And like I said, when I first started thinking about it, I kind of struggled because I didn't really go to the beach, and I think that's what people think of with the summer, just like hanging out with friends, out and not having school. Um, but I wanted to go a little bit more out there. There was something that I did every few summers that I thought would be worth talking about, and that's going to some of the amusement parks back in my day. Now, I haven't seen a ton of commentary on this. Like I said, I thought it would be fun to talk about. And just to get it out of the way, I've never ever been to Disneyland, Disney World, or either of the Universals, either in the studios in California or Orlando. I've been to Six Flags in Gurnee, Illinois, but that's about the only major amusement park I've been to. Whereas most of the ones that I've gone to are like smaller local attractions that I wanted to highlight to a larger audience. Needless to say, this is a good segment where I'm going to be talking about the two states that I lived in. This is also not a paid advertisement for either of these places, and though I should be linking to their promotional material, it's just so that there's a direct link to each location. So the first one that I want to talk about is the local amusement park that defined my earlier childhood years, which is Knoebels out in Ellisburg, Pennsylvania. So, it is an independently owned amusement park started about 100 years ago in 1926. It's obviously not the only amusement park out in Pennsylvania. There's also places like, I went to Dutch Wonderland a couple of times, and you can't, if you're talking about a Pennsylvania amusement park, you can't not talk about Hershey Park. I went there once, but when I think of childhood nostalgia connected to amusement parks, it's Knoebels that I think of. So that's the one that I want to give special emphasis to here today. Now, there's actually a lot of extra amenities there that you're going to see on their website that I never participated in. Like, there's a campground. They have swimming pools with a couple of different slides. They're golf courses. But what I went for there during the between the ages of like 5 and 8 or 10 or so were the rides. I'll have a link available to the list of rides, but I want to go through some of the highlights. Some of the rides have little videos for you to look at on the site, and keep in mind, these are rides that I have nostalgia for, so it's possible that some of them aren't there anymore, or by the time you watch this, if you're watching this in post-2020, they might be gone when you're watching it. And I tried to pick rides that have pages on the website, hoping that they still exist, but it's always possible that something changes. So, how many do I have on here? I think I have 8 listed. Yeah, I have 8. So let's just go through the order. So the first one I have on here is the Antique Cars. So this is a ride where you drive in like a fake Model T, like 1930s looking car along a track. But I never really understood how it worked because there was like a bar in the middle of the pavement, but the car wasn't attached to it. But yet you would still somehow not really control it, and it would never hit the railings on the side of the road. Regardless of that, it was just a fun little leisurely drive through the path. I even got to drive in between one of the roller coasters in the park as well, so that was pretty neat. The second one I want to mention is the Flyer. So this is like a mixture of those like swings that go around in a circle, which I'll be talking about later, and those helicopter sort of rides. So basically, like, you get in a car and they're gonna go around in a circle, not unlike the helicopter rides. But unlike your normal plane or boat that has, a rudder that's behind you that you twist around, you have one like a giant, almost like sail in front of you. And the easy thing to do would be like if you're going clockwise, would be turn it in such a way so that you're continuing to go and turn with the rotation. But you can just like twist it however you want and make the car go every single which way. This is one of the ones that should have a video on there to make it easier to envision, because I feel like this is a ride that's a little confusing, but if you actually go on it, it's pretty fun. They have a giant flume, also known lovingly by my family as just the log ride, and it's kind of like the logical end of what you would get if you mixed a water slide and a roller coaster. So most of the ride is actually spent just going around the path to the incline that you're going to go up. So a lot of the ride is really about anticipation, like, okay, we're going to go down this big drop, and it's going to be wet, and it's going to be cold, but it's going to be fun and scary. And then at the end, so like, it's almost like a pair of escalators in a way. It's like you're going up and up and up and up and up and up, and then there's just a little itty bitty bitty big curve, and then you go way down super fast, and all of your adrenaline rushes out during the fast drop, and you get this huge splash of water, and there's a splash zone if you're on the bottom, and it's pretty cool and scary, like any good roller coaster should be. The next one, and this is the definition of a childhood ride, because only kids under 4 feet tall can ride it, is the hand cars. So basically what you do is it's this little car, and you sit down in the car with your legs stretched out, and in the middle of the car is this like double-sided crank that you just have to twist and twist and twist and twist, and the faster that you rotate, the faster that the train goes down the track until you reach the bumpers at the end. And apparently, as I was doing my little bit of research on their website, I learned that these hand cars are based on a design by Hodges Hand Cars from Indianapolis, Indiana in 1952. So those have made their way around the country now. I talked about the helicopters. This is a bit more of a generic ride where you get in a car and you're going around in a circle. It was just a fun little sort of kid ride. And if I remember correctly, there's like a lever inside of it too that isn't too dissimilar from an actual helicopter, where it's like it lets you go up and it lets you go down. It lets you go up and down as you want. The sixth one on this list is the Italian trapeze. Is Knobel's special name for it, but I just always call this type of ride the spinning swings, which is probably my favorite type of ride in amusement parks, to be honest. It's a very simple ride, but whenever I get on one of these, I just get so like bubbly and like, I'm like I'm like giggling like I'm just totally on top of the world, or on something that I'm not on. So I always have had this in my memory. I cannot remember which amusement park I've gone to that's had this, but there is one spinning swing ride that played carousel-like music, and I adored it. And I want to say it was the one at Knoebels, but I was looking up videos of people riding it, and I could not find it with the music. It was silent as people are going around. It has super pretty art on the side, not, just like a carousel, but I can't find the music, and that's really bugging me. It might have been a different one of the Pennsylvania ones, though. It was the Paradrop, which is probably the tamest of all of the rides I've mentioned. And basically the premise is that you and like a bunch of it's like those rides where you and a bunch of other people get in one big car, but in this case it's like you and there's like cars where you can fit a total of 2 people each, but they're paired up, so 4 people. And kind of like with the Flume, this ride is a lot about anticipation as well. Because basically you go up, 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 and then you actually sit at the top, I mean, not super long. It feels long. It's probably like 15 seconds. But then that's just enough time for anticipation where like the actual going whoo is kind of exhilarating. I mean, there's other rides like this that you'll see even at your state and county fairs. I'd say there's one that I like better, even in the same park, called it's called the Ribbit, which is a similar idea, but instead of just like you go up, all it's like one of those ones where it's a bunch of people sitting in a line where you go up, but you actually go like up and down, like a frog hopping. Hence the Ribbit. And the last one I want to mention from there are the Panther cars, which is a special ride to me, if only because, and I see it right there where you can't see it. One of the times that I have ridden it is immortalized in a famous photo of my uncle and I in the light blue car driving around the bends. It's kind of like a faster version of the antique cars I talked about earlier, in even shorter track. But the biggest difference and the reason it may be superior is that you get you get a horn in this one, but it doesn't go like it's like a buzzer or something of the like. Now, trust me, that's not all of the rides at the amusement parks, because I'm sure you're sitting here right now and thinking like, Brandon, what are you doing not mentioning like the most famous amusement park rides of all time, the ones that you think of when you think of any generic carnival? That is for a specific reason, and that is because I'm going to talk about a second amusement park here, one that I visited more in my later years as I've been living in my current home state of Wisconsin, and that is the Bay Beach Amusement Park in Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is a quite smaller park in comparison, and a big reason for that is because it's actually owned by the city, so it's like a park but also an amusement park, which is kind of neat. And it has mostly those standard rides. I'm only really going to talk about the few that I didn't cover that are important to amusement parks, the ones that you want me to talk about. And there's also equivalent rides for those out in Knoebels, but so I'm going to discuss both locations for those. I don't have as many here. It's just 5 more. So the first one on this list is the bumper cars. It's tough to say which, of these classic rides is going to be the most classic, but part of me wants to say this one, part of me wants to say the Ferris wheel, and part of me wants to say the carousel, because I'm indecisive. I feel like this might be the first ride that people today think of when they think of amusement parks. I feel like I don't have to explain the premise, but just in case, you get like 15 to 20 cars, and it looks like they have rubber tubes going around where the wheels would be if it had wheels. And then there's usually a pole on the back that goes up to a grate on the ceiling, and that actually powers the vehicle just enough so you can drive it around and bounce off of the other cars or like go around in a circle. I don't really have any special memories on bumper cars, but I have to mention it because it's a classic ride. Then there's the Ferris wheel, which, for me, the Ferris wheel was always the ride that capped off every amusement park trip. So Bay Beach actually has 2 different Ferris wheels. There's the Ferris wheel, which is little, and then there's the big wheel. But I'm pretty sure Knoebels, they have their own Ferris wheel, obviously, but I'm pretty sure that theirs is the biggest of the 3. I haven't been able to try Bay Beach's and then Knoebels right after each other to compare, and I don't want to slander the size of the big wheel at Bay Beach, so I could be wrong, just full disclosure. But still, I have many memories of dark nights that were just barely lit aglow by the colors of the Ferris wheel, and I have to say, being up there with the lights and seeing the whole park out there it's a magical sight. If you've never had that opportunity before, I highly recommend it. The third one I want to mention is the Giant Slide. And the reason I want to mention this one is that there's actually a pretty big comparison between the Bay Beach version and the Knoebels version because the rides are very different at both. So, Knoebels calls theirs the Sky Slide, and their version is not nearly as exciting because the Sky Slide is basically just like a corkscrew slide down by yourself on, that I don't know exactly what the material is, but it's basically like a rug, but like super rough. Whereas the giant slide at Bay Beach holds like 8 people all at once, all on their own rugs, and they race down to the bottom of the slide at the same time, and it is awesome. And both are neat, but you just can't, especially like as somebody who loves gamifying things, you cannot beat turning this ride into a competition because it's really fun. Well, because that just makes it even more fun because you're with other people and trying to beat each other to the end. I have to talk about the carousel. And the thing about carousels is there are only good and okay carousels. It is very hard to have a bad carousel. But to me, the best ones have like the super pretty artwork in the middle, the horses or whatever animals you're on should look like they're actually carved by a human being. And of course, the music, if it's by like a calliope or an organ or an accordion, has to be super whimsical and magical to me. The carousel at Bay Beach is one of those okay ones. It has pretty lights. That's another thing it should have. And there's like a good set of animals, but the floorboards are all just like a generic boring color, and there's not really any art there. I mean, it has perfectly serviceable music, but the Knoebels one hits every note correctly and then some because it has flashy lights for at night. It's got the amazing, like, old-timey artwork in the middle, and it's both on the inner ring wall and then the roof ring. And the music is whimsical. Like there's little like figures that play it when you're in line. And not unlike the giant slide, the Knoebels carousel has a little game added to it because there's like 3 rings of horses. If you're on the outer ring and you like hear a bell ring as you're going around, you can try to grab a brass ring from like the holder and win free tickets if you can. There's like a spot you're supposed to toss it into that you time as you're going around. But if you're in the middle ring, then you get to go on horses that actually like move up and down as if they're galloping. So there's always fun, no matter how you ride that sort of thing. And to me, that's awesome. And total side tangent, I love carousel music, and I'm unashamed to admit that. I don't know. It just makes me like super giddy and gleeful, not to like the oh my god, I was just talking about it. Like the spinning swings. And it's also probably a big reason why I want to play like the Klonoa series because the opening songs are very carousel-like, and again, I'm unashamed, as much as I'm acting totally ashamed right now. And the last one I want to mention is every amusement park has to have a park train. And this is a type of ride that's near and dear to me, if only because I like being driven by a tiny locomotive, and when I was a little kid, I was super into trains. And Knoebels has 2 of these going around their park, but I actually want to talk about the Bay Beach one, because I think you actually get a much better scenic travel on it. You don't really go through the park, whereas the Knoebels one actually goes through the park, and again, kind of like the antique cars, it goes through one of the roller coasters. One of them does, I don't know about the other one. I say this as if I'm specifying which one does which. Whereas the Bay Beach one, you actually go more on the perimeter of the park, kind of by the bay, hence Bay Beach. And I'm just a sucker for shorelines, and that is, I don't know, it's just a pretty little 5-minute ride, and I think it's nice to, I think every, I didn't really mention any like roller coasters, like extreme rides, other than the flume in this. I don't know, I guess I'm just more of a calm ride person, as lame as that may make me. And, those are just my current amusement park memories. It's certainly possible that, when I can go to an amusement park again when it's safe, that I will probably revisit this topic in some way, like in the intro, and I'm like, hey, I did this cool thing. I want to talk about it because it's neat. But I think it was just kind of nice talking about this sort of thing. If only also when I was doing research to watch the videos about these rides. So we have one final topic here, and then the conclusion of this episode of the Creative Outlet Podcast to go.